Hello, Lori. Hello, everyone. This is Veronica Entwistle, and we're coming to you from Paradigm Shifters. Paradigm Shifters, there are changes going on our planet, and we're bringing through, well, Lori's got new perspective. We're learning
Yeah,
about
new
that.
perspective.
And the thing is that everything is changing and really bringing us to certain degrees of enlightenment. But it isn't everyone. We try to keep saying that because some people will move more slowly, being in resistance and all that. So we're going to talk with MIRICRIS about what is happening and how can we, well, we have to want to embrace consciousness and evolution, but I think everyone watching this does. So
hmm
I'll bring them in when you're ready. Lori, what else you had several things to say before we went into session.
Um, Happy new moon, everybody. Be sure to say your prayers, ask for the things that you would like, start new things, close the door on some old things that you no longer want to participate in. Bring the new, the new, the new, the new in right now. And it's really strong tonight. I can feel it. Even maybe make a list of all the things you would like to see, to happen, all your dreams.
And is one
Um,
of the tools of evolution, isn't it? When you can
yes,
bring it through, yes.
yes, absolutely.
Hmm.
So shall we just dive into Miracris and
Yes,
get to
although
the
you
heart of
might want
things?
to tell about our wonderful new,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. Okay, everybody. So what we did was we've started a membership and it's very, very cool. It's something we've been talking about for a while because Veronica had another group that she was doing called Structures. And she decided she wanted to start to migrate that group, that construct into a whole new kind of idea. And so this is called Paradigm Shifters Membership. And it happens monthly. And for 20 bucks a month, um, you get a live Zoom room with Veronica. It's about 1 hour on multitudes of topics. You can write your questions and questions into the comments section, or you can, because it's a live Zoom room, you can just do it live, unless you want to be more private about it. And the other thing is, V decided that it'd be really great to do a 15-minute a private reading every month, personal private reading, 15 minutes. So
For
this is,
each member.
yeah, for each member every month. I mean, it's great. It's a great value, but this is part of the evolutionary platform that we talked about creating. And these topics will involve being human, what is evolution? How can we rise up? I mean, very deep questions on how we
Number
get
of
to the next
healing, your
platform.
purpose, yeah, and the
Yeah.
purpose of what we're going through, and yeah, and how can we dispel some of the angst that's going on politically and so on? How can we work with that in ourselves and change it and so on?
hmm
There's a lot to be talked about.
Yeah, how to develop our sensitivity to
Mhm.
higher, to the realm, to higher levels of working with our own spirit teams, you know.
And how to get
I mean,
along. Maybe what we're going to do is develop a worldwide team, a worldwide association, which would be delightful.
absolutely.
People struggling with the same gifts of change that you're struggling with, or even if
hmm
you're not struggling, reaching for, you know.
Yeah. And we'd like a few Palladians to come in and join our team.
We're sending out some
But the
cards. Please
reptilians have
come.
to stay home. The reptilians have to stay home.
But you know something that's really interesting? We can tell who's who, whether they're on our side by their frequency. And
hmm
somebody explained to me that some reptilians are very high frequency. We have a lot to talk about, actually.
We do. Bear with us. It could be a long one, you guys.
Actually, it might be a long transition because we're making a transition to a much more enlightened species. I really
Yeah.
believe that, you know. Um, Here we
So
go.
should we? Okay, thank you.
And they're very eager to speak with you and I, and you could assist the higher light by calling in from your highest, from infinity plus one, call in a stream of golden light and have it come down, push through the top of your head and run through your spine and into the core of the earth and back up again. That just clears a passageway for our consciousness and for the beings who want to come in and be comfortable. They're laughing and playing with us. Welcome, MIRICRIS. Welcome. We are here and very happy to be. We want so much to share with you some of the most amazing um, aspects of this time in your history. The world has been, you would call it perhaps, the world has been soaked or bathed in some potentials for change for a long while, coming in through the atmosphere, coming in from many, many planetary structures. But we've also said before that it's not only here that these frequencies are moving, it's all over the universes. So no matter where you go, the baseline of frequencies is moving up, moving up. That doesn't mean everyone's will move up simultaneously. Oh no. What it means is that you can consciously reach for being a much higher frequency being. And as you do that consciously, again, we're using our consciousness, you will perceive many things at a higher level. You will perceive understandings of the movement of our species through challenges of all kinds. You'll perceive at a more opening, it's almost like your mind will feel like the gates are opening and oh boy, aren't you smarter today than you used to be? Kind of goes like that. But remember, it's only some people that are ready, willing, and able to be open to these changes. Just some people, and they've got this cellular structure that is more receptive to change than others. So we're calling them the evolvers at this time. But everyone can do it. It just is taking some options, some choices, and some practices, some meditation to encourage yourself to know and feel the higher frequencies that are potential for you. So for some, it'll take longer, but ultimately, everyone goes. Do you understand that, Lori?
Mm, that's fascinating. Yes, all at different times, and it can
Mhm.
take.
And the thing is, you've got to just love each other as you do that because only loving the ones that are moving and grooving is not exactly the evolutionary statement. You understand? You want to
Mhm.
love them and realize people have to trip over a lot of their own heavy beliefs and so on in order to release themselves from the traps of their subconscious, their family of origin, or whatever it is.
Mhm.
We
Absolutely.
we are very excited to be a part of this, which is why you have many beings like we are who are sharing times with you on your planet. Because this is
Yeah,
a very, very exciting transformational time.
right. And Miracris, something that just came up was the concept of suffering. One thing that's so true for humans and also animals, oh, a species on this planet, is there is an element of having to experience and cope with suffering. I mean, there's a lot of other things we do, but there was something you just said that made me go, wow, the core, sometimes the core of what we're dealing with is the past, the constriction, the trauma, having to find our way so that we can leap across to allow ourselves to break open.
Well, it's interesting you should say break open because that's the perfect visual. When people have, for example, we'll take grief from the death of somebody close. All right, the person had a bonding and the other person dies, and your whole vibrational fields have to change and realign. And the changes are more potentially at that time changes of evolution, changes of growth. or they can be changes into a deepening depression that doesn't go away. You understand that? But it is the
Exactly.
movement of frequencies through, we would call it the consciousness of the frequencies that come from trauma. It could be any kind of war, it could be wars, just all kinds of trauma will push you to hold on to the feeling of suffering until you have some kind of resolution which will lead to the transformation that you seek. And as you
Right.
know, for some people, it can be thousands of years. You understand that? But those of
Yes.
you who are really working hard on consciousness, it won't be thousands of years. You can, this hurts so much, I can barely bear it. But you can know in your heart and soul that you, in your suffering, this is your word from this discussion, your suffering does know that it's the practice of moving your awareness into taking charge of whatever the loss was or the pain was. You understand? It's
Mhm.
not a final statement about who you are. It is a kind of a starting point to move into a higher choice of what you want to feel and what kind of wisdom and consciousness you want to bring into the world through you. Can you
Mhm.
understand that? So it's a very, it's evolutionary. Suffering is one of the steps of change,
Yeah.
of growth, and of becoming.
Yeah, and it's interesting because sometimes we can't always see because it is sluggish,
Oh,
that kind of,
and
and
blinding.
and blinding, and it can take such a long time for something to happen. Then sometimes you're doing something and you're trying to affect change, and all of a sudden it's like boom, the change happens. And you go, wow, that is unbelievable that I helped affect that change. For instance, recently, I'll just tell you very quickly, I've been dealing with a neighbor who was abusing her animals. And I took it upon myself to reach out to her and become her friend first. Unlike in the past, I would have attacked and judged and criticized. And with that, I tried to get in there to explain to her that there's a better way to discipline her dogs, and a better way to love them because they love her so much. Long and short, something happened. I reported it, and lo and behold, what I now see is a woman. She's a shattered woman who actually is struggling with her own trauma, her own PTSD in her own life, her own suffering, her own agony. And now I see her take the heads, the little faces of the dogs, and she's petting them now. That
Oh,
never occurred before. And
how touching.
this has been happening through because of meditation, but also with a push, a civil push to bring the exposure, to snap her out of it, out of her trance. So I just wanted to share that because that evolution can happen in a moment, even when we don't know how it's going to happen or we don't see how. Yeah. So go ahead,
Or you could
Miracris.
also say that her suffering was a safe place for her to hoard herself so she couldn't take on any more pain.
Right.
You see how it becomes a cycle, and these are like pockets of identity that keep you safe from the hurt of the other parts of life.
Yeah. Anyways, I wanted to share that because
It's
wasn't
a
it
beautiful story, Lori.
wasn't it Krishnamurti who said healing can happen in a moment?
Yes.
So I that was an example and I've witnessed it. I'm not saying there's been a change. At least it's a change. Miracris, it's been on my mind. I read an article recently that had to do with P. Diddy and an assistant, a former assistant of Trump, talking about sex trafficking taking uh, taking place at some of Trump's properties.
We are aware of this. mm, You must understand, Lori, that it goes on throughout most of your power echelons in this society. You understand that?
Hmm.
And it has for thousands of years.
Yep.
And what you're talking about is the cutting edge of when you can rid the world of these sort of dangerous and difficult aspects. We see that not all the royalty, but the royalty has been involved in this for a long time. And also, you notice that the legal attacks back on these people usually keeps them fairly safe, even though they've been put up on news as having these uh, dangerous attributes. You understand? One of the biggest problems with your society is too much technology. You understand? That it's easy for them to build these networks of people that want to be in the, for example, trafficking world. They get more business and they have more fun and so on. It's not going to go away. And one of the biggest problems you have is that these people are not always punished for when they're caught. You know this? P.
Hmm.
Diddy is not being punished at this time except by having these reports in the paper. Mr. Trump rarely is punished by his when they discover his problems and his cruelties. He's a very cruel man, and he should not be in leadership role without being put in some kind of confinement because he's dangerous. You understand this? But this
Hmm.
confinement is not happening to people who are in power, who have money, and who can buy their way free. And you understand that? And that's running around the world right now.
Okay, so let me ask you, when Jeffrey Epstein died in prison, they said he had killed himself.
No, he did not.
Do you know who killed him?
It was carefully planned. We're not going to mention any names, but it was carefully planned by people who are once removed from the power names. You understand that? And that it was carefully planned. And perhaps even Jeffrey Epstein himself was a part of the plan.
Huh.
In fact, we would say that's true.
And sadly, Virginia Giuffre killed herself a few months ago. She was the one who brought the massive exposure to Jeffrey Epstein and to Prince Andrew. She was one of the underage women that was basically a sex slave. Um, so she had three children, and it happened in Australia. And anyways, sadly, it was reported that she had killed herself.
She was a very, very, we were talking about suffering. She's
Mhm.
a woman whose suffering drove her to some very tangled desires and emotions. Do you understand that?
Yeah,
And this is one of the things that suffering untrammeled does that to people. They start to hold back on ethics, thinking no one will look after them. They're bad people. The worst is they blame themselves. She blamed herself for everything.
oh,
A very,
so sad.
very potentially kind, wonderful woman who had this very dark we say that some people are destined for evolution. She was destined in a very strange way with this dark pattern in her cellular structure. She was destined to dive into that as deeply as she could. And she could not get respite for herself. She
Yeah,
knew she was suffering and that she knew it was like that, but she couldn't find the place to exit the problem. Do you understand?
right, exactly.
Yes. And we
And
would
we,
say that this is where prayers can help. You can help her soul because she needs to find a way to melt some of those incredible edicts that have been flowing in her cellular
Mhm.
journey for a long while. And so the interesting thing about that is as the consciousness of the species grows, it's worth allowing yourself to help people who have an evil pattern in there to help them move that pattern. You mentioned Ghislaine. She needs
Yes.
a great deal of prayers right now, or when she crosses, she'll be reactivating that, and it will be a really difficult time for her. And so we're
Mm,
saying here's a good example of the work that you've brought forward in the healing world to apply to some. We're not recommending everyone do this because you can get caught under the wheels of some of this kind of subconscious or conscious evilness. We're not saying do a lot of that, but it's pretty difficult for them to extricate themselves even when they've passed.
right. And it is curious, why is Ghislaine still alive? Cons-
Protection from, and she has a lot of money. It's that
But Jeffrey died. But Jeffrey died, and she holds as many cards as he did.
not really. He had some pretty deep um, financial commitments
Uh-huh.
that were a lot different than hers.
Ah, okay. Mm-hmm.
It's hard for us to be able to parse exactly where these people are indebted or locked in and so on. But
Mm-hmm.
we are saying there's a possibility of breaking her lock on evil and her cold, no consciousness, kind of no conscience aspect.
Mm,
It's a very difficult lock to break. But we
right.
do say, for the sake of the human evolution will go on en masse ultimately. But it
Mm-hmm.
can't go on if you allow, many of you allow these people who are locked in evil formats to stay that way. And we use
Mm-hmm.
the word allow because it tells you that we have the option, you all have the option to turn and pray for people who have been seemingly locked into a very dark existence. You have that ability. Always be praying for them because if they can unlock themselves, you'll find that humanity moves ahead with much more grace. And you do know this. They say when enough people move through changes, everyone goes. You see, it's kind of
Right.
like that. The changes here are what are the subconscious encodements.
Interesting. Very
Very,
deep
very
stuff.
confusing for most
A-
people, Lori.
And very confusing because these people have inflicted so much harm and permanent damage onto other people and suffering and pain that it's, you know, to pray for them on a higher level, absolutely, because that will help unlock them.
Which helps unlock the species.
Mm-hmm.
Because this one's always asking about why do humans keep
Mm-hmm.
recycling the viciousness, the thievery, the dominance, the deception, keeps recycling it and recycling it. And she mentioned Gaza being stripped of life and so on, over and over and over again. Those are the things that the praying for the evil, about the evil, would stop that consistent going through the same old patterns. You see,
Mm-hmm.
you want to break the patterns. Break.
Right. And through not only higher consciousness, but with more and more people joining in on that, it really does become a movement.
Hmm.
And yeah, I don't know if we'll
But
ever
we're
leave.
asking right now to go into a clearing because the energy that was brought through is maintaining its presence here, and we don't want to leave people with that.
Okay.
So let's one more time call forth the great beings of light and love, which you call God or whatever name you use. Reach up with your mind and draw down the golden stream of light and ask for help as you swish the entire receiving audience. We swish them with this beautiful light. Swish them with this beautiful light. They are not locked by someone else's pain. Swish them with this beautiful light all the way down into the core of the earth, and it comes back up and swish all around all the people that are thinking of people. Swish round and around. It's lightning. You can feel it lightening. Swish it round and around your environment, round and around your environment. Good. In fact, what we say is that forgiveness is one of the great healing, swishing frequencies, if you will. Move it right up, a little farther. It has to move up farther, round and around in your environment, round and around. So each of you is like an electrode sending out that transformative energy instead of just receiving difficult energy. Good. There's a
Mm-hmm.
lightning coming up. Perhaps you can feel it, Lori.
Mm-hmm. You can.
There. Oh my. So what is your next question? That's a pretty hefty
That,
question. You know that.
yes, I do. And I think we're going to leave it there, Mary Chris. That was a lot to digest. And it's very thought provoking, very emotional. I think a lot of people are going to walk away from this um, uh, just reflective. So thank you.
So
Thank you.
remind yourself, we would like to say this, that the movement of consciousness through humanity is a lot of work, but it's the most brilliant work you'll ever have because it'll change the entire world,
Hmm. Hmm.
your entire world.
Hmm. All right. Thank you. That's beautiful. Thank you again, Mary Chris. Thanks for joining us. And thank you to everybody out there. Take care of yourself. Uh,
And to
keep
you,
raising keep raising your fields of light as we leave and say good night
good
and
night.
put out your wishes and your dreams. Okay? New moon. It's a new moon.